Well, hello and a beautiful evening, afternoon, morning, night, wherever you are. Welcome to Conversations with Dr. Els. It's great to have you locked on, and I'm looking forward to having a good time with you this evening. I'm kind of just excited about what we're going to talk about, and so I want to encourage you to find someone. Let them know Conversations with Dr. Els is on, and we are going to have a fabulous, exciting time with this conversation, a conversation where you're going to learn, a conversation where you will discuss with me, where we can talk together, and where we can share our ideas. Remember, this is not a lecture, it is not me as a facilitator, it's not me teaching at a university or anything like that, like I usually do. It is a program where we share with each other real conversation about things that affect family life, things that affect marriage, things that affect your finances, just real conversations with real people. All right, so I want you to just grab something and let someone know that Conversations with Dr. Els is on, and we're looking forward to having them on our conversation. So hey guys, wherever you are, just it is just an exciting time to be with you. All right, because and so last week we started talking about financial abuse in marriage, and this week I want to share with you 7 signs of financial abuse in marriage. We want to continue that. We're going to get into the practical things. All right, so 7 signs that there is financial abuse in marriage. I'm sure you can tell me some of them, but we're going to discuss. We're just going to share with each other. All right, because you got to understand this. I'm jumping right into our topic, and so we're gonna get there. All right, we're jumping straight into our topic. All right, let me just pull this nice. Okay, right. So 7 signs of financial abuse in marriage. You see, a spouse does not have to hit you to abuse you, because the weapon sometimes is money. Money is used as a weapon, or sometimes it is access to your bank account, right? Sometimes it is preventing you from working. Do you know any relationship where one party prevents the other party from working, right? And the reason given oftentimes is because, I want someone to take care of the home, but in many cases, in the back of the person's mind, in the back of the person's mind is, I want to control you, therefore I'm gonna let you stay at home. All right. So sometimes it's preventing the party from working. Sometimes it is forcing you to explain every dollar you spend while the other person spend freely. Sometimes in relationship, you have one party, they're spending, they're buying whatever they want, they're doing whatever they want with the money, but you have to give an account of every cent that you spend. They force you to explain every dollar you spend while they are spending freely. Let me pause and say hi to the most beautiful woman in the world, Mrs. Dale Jan Lane Neal. Great having you locked on to Conversations with Dr. Els. And I want you to share the conversation, all right? Share the conversation. Welcome all of you who are on. Okay, so we're talking about 7 signs of financial abuse. So because financial abuse does not always leave a visible mark, many people experience it for years without realizing that what is happening is not normal. There are many persons who have gone through financial abuse in their marriage, and it happens so often that they don't realize that it is something that is wrong. Okay, let me pause also and just say to you, if you are not able to see this now, I'm putting that out there, and you want a relook, you can go to my YouTube channel, Dr. Els TV. Okay, and you can always look at the replay there. All right, so great. All right, and I have my friend Curtis Thomas. Great having you locked on to Conversations with Dr. Els. Remember, guys, share the broadcast. Let everyone know that this is a very important topic, and there are so many persons in marriage who need to hear about this. Okay, 7 signs of financial abuse in marriage, right? We have practical, faith informed conversations here every week. Okay, so we are discussing these 7 signs of financial abuse in marriage, and you will probably hear me going it over and over again because I want it locked into this, because this is a topic that much people don't talk about. As a matter of fact, so many persons are not aware that there could be financial abuse in marriage. But I want you to understand this. Not every disagreement about money is financial abuse. I want to lay that on the table. Okay, couples would sometimes disagree about spending. They may disagree about saving or debt or budgeting and financial priorities. You see, one spouse may also be naturally more careful with money than the other. You have in a relationship, oftentimes you have one party who is more prudent than the other, and they are more careful with money. You also have in the relationship where the parties would not agree always on how to spend the money. That does not necessarily that is not necessarily financial abuse. I want you to get that, right? Financial abuse is different. All right, financial abuse is a repeated pattern in which one person uses money or employment or property or credit or even access to financial resources to control, intimidate, punish, or trap the other person. And we started talking about that last week. So what is financial abuse? When someone would use money repeatedly, all right, or employment and not allowing the other person to work, or use property or credit or even access to financial resources to control. And that is the key there. If they're doing it to control or to intimidate or to punish or to trap the other person in the relationship, right? That is what financial abuse is. So it is not simply about who pays the bill. In a relationship, you could have one person paying the bill. It's not about that. It is about who holds the power and how that power is being used. That is what financial abuse is. So let's get into these 7 signs that you should not ignore. All right, hear me. These 7 signs, if you see them in your relationship, if you see them in any other relationship, if you see them in your friend's relationship, your family's relationship, anything like that, do not ignore them. So, 7 signs. Sign number 1, where one spouse control all access to money, right? So number 1 sign that this is financial abuse is when one spouse controls all access to the money. You know, in some marriages, one person handles most of the finances because that arrangement works well for the couple, right? And nothing is wrong with that. That by itself is not abuse. I want you to understand that. It becomes concerning though when the other spouse is deliberately kept in the dark, right? When the other spouse is kept in the dark, they don't know what is happening. They don't know if the bills are being paid. They don't know if the water is going to get cut off or the electricity or anything like that. One spouse control all aspect of the money and the other spouse doesn't know anything. The other spouse is in the dark. All right. And understand this, you do not know how much money is coming into the household. That becomes an issue. The other spouse doesn't know, he or she doesn't know how much money you're working for, how much money is coming in. And so that spouse who is abusing you financially has all the information. You cannot access the bank accounts, although the bank accounts are for both of you. You cannot access it. You do not know the passwords for the account. You are not allowed to see statements, right? And so you have no idea what bills are being paid or what debts are being accumulated. These are signs, all right, when one person is controlling the everything about finances. You may even have to ask actually permission to buy basic necessities. Remember last week we talked about the spouse that went to the grocery store, and when she picked up all the groceries, got to the cashier, she had to call the husband, ask the husband, can I buy these things? Say exactly what she was buying, and the husband said no, and she had to go and put it back. That is financial abuse. So there is a difference between managing the money and controlling another adult through money. Let me say that again. There is a difference between managing the money and controlling another adult through money. Financial abuse is controlling someone else through money. So healthy financial management includes communication. It includes transparency. It includes mutual respect, where you could talk about it. Where are we going? We talked about that last week. What is our financial goal? How are we getting there? What are some of the things that we want to do? All right. So it is very important. Even when one spouse is responsible for paying the bills, both spouses should have an understanding of the household financial situation. All right? So even if it was one person paying it, both spouses should know, well, the bill is this month, and this it's that next month, and have an idea of what is happening. All right, it's very, very important. Marriage as we said last week, should be a partnership. It must not be a financial dictatorship. So understand this. As we said, number one sign of financial abuse in the marriage is when one spouse control all aspects of the money. I got to understand that, right? One spouse control all aspect of the money. And of course, I want to remind you that, you can share your thoughts. You can share your thoughts in here, because this is not a teaching per se. This is a conversation we want to have. You may know someone and you could talk about it, share your experience. But let's move on to sign number 2. Sign number 2 is when you are forced to account for every dollar while your spouse does whatever they want. All right? Again, let me say that. Number two sign that it is financial abuse in the relationship is when one party has to account, and they are being forced to account for every dollar they spend, while the other party, the other spouse, does whatever they want. So one spouse could buy whatever they want, they can do whatever they want, but on the other hand, the other spouse has to account for every dime, as we may say, that they spend. Understand that. That is financial abuse. Because you see, financial accountability should work in both directions. It is not one person must give accountability. Both parties. There is a problem when you are interrogated over every purchase, but your spouse is free to spend without explanation. Why did you buy that shoe? Why? How much you spend for it? Why did you spend so much for it? And why 2 pairs and not one? And you add a dress, or you add a shirt to that, and all of that is happening. And then the same spouse is spending, and even at times spending, more than what they're asking you about, right? That is financial abuse. You may be required to produce receipts. Let me see the bills. Let me see the receipts. And the other person doesn't. Your bank activity may be constantly monitored. They're checking every dime you take out, or what you're doing at the bank, how much money you're putting in, and all of that. That is financial abuse, right? Understand this. You may be accused of being irresponsible, or just because you buy something small, oh, you are irresponsible, while the other person make major purchases without consulting you. So one spouse may decide, I am going to buy a car, or I am going to buy, and I'm not talking about surprising if you have the money and you're surprising your spouse. I'm not talking about that, right? I'm talking about when one party is spending to buy little things, and they have to account for that, and the other party isn't accounting for anything that they do. That is number 2 sign that there is financial abuse in the relationship. And hear me, when you see these, you have to pay attention. All right? You are forced to account for every dollar while the other spouse does whatever they want with the money. You have to pay attention to that. And that, my friend, is a marriage leak. That, my friend, is your marriage dripping. That, my friend, if it continues, it's going to make havoc on your relationship. And instead of just dripping and leaking, you're going to have a terrible explosion, or a terrible, well, not leak. It becomes more than a leak. As we may say, the pipe would burst, right? You got to understand, these things and see them for what they are, right? Because some people are in relationships so long they don't see these things, and they think that it is normal. However, I'm saying to you, when you see these things, these are financial abuse, right? The issue is really not merely that a budget exists. That is not the issue. As a matter of fact, every household needs boundaries. You got to work through where you are. The issue is whether the rules are fair and whether both people are expected to follow them. It can't be one rule for the husband and another rule for the wife. It can't be one rule for the wife and another rule for the husband. It can't be that the wife does whatever she wants and the husband cannot do whatever he wants, or vice versa. So you got to understand this. You got to understand financial abuse in relationship, right? A budget should help a couple accomplish shared goals. Budgeting is important. We are not so much talking about that much today, but just to drop that in, budgeting is important. It should not be used as a leash around one spouse's neck. So you can't say, well, we have this budget, and so you can't do anything outside of the budget. If the budget says we spend $10 for lunch, you can't spend 12. But then the other party is spending $20 and $25 outside of the budget and don't give account for it, right? So the budget should not be used as a leash around one spouse's neck. Now, when one person creates financial rules that only the other person must obey, money is no longer being used for stewardship. I want to say that again to you. When one person creates financial rules that only the other person must obey, money is no longer being used for stewardship. It is being used for abuse. And you got to understand, it is being used for control. And you have to understand these things. All right, let me give you a third sign. I have 7, and I want to share them with you today. All right, and I want you to comment in the chat. I see those comments, and share whatever comment. Or if you have a question, I would seek to answer your question. Right, so you can comment in the chat. Sign number 3, financial abuse. Sign number 3, your spouse prevents you from working or advancing your career. Talk about a bit of that early. When your spouse says you can't work, as a matter of fact, they sometimes they don't even say you shouldn't work. They're like, no, you can't work. So when a spouse prevents you from working, or if you're working, they prevent you from advancing your career. They don't want you to get promotion. The boss wants to make you the manager in another office somewhere across the city and such like that. And they said, no, you should not do that. They don't want you to advance your career. They don't want you to get the promotion. They don't want, because you're going to be making more money or something like that. That is another sign of financial abuse. All right. So when a spouse deliberately prevents the other person from earning an income or becoming financially stable, that is sign of abuse. I mean, come on. In a normal, well, I won't say normal because normal is relative, but in a relationship, in a good family, in a good marriage, both parties should want to make more money because it becomes more money for the couple in the relationship, so that when one person deliberately prevents the other person from earning an income or becoming financially stable, that is abuse. And this can include pressuring you to leave your job. I mean, I know a person who pressure their spouse to leave the job. Leave that job. No, stay home. Look at how the children need you and such like that. This is financial abuse. When there is no reasonable family need for you to leave your job and they're telling you you gotta leave your job, stay home. That is financial abuse. It can include like repeatedly interfering with your work schedule. So they do things so that you are either always late or you can't get to work and such like that. And then they do things in such a way that your boss now get tired of you and may want to fire you. And they are deliberately doing that so that you can lose your job. Your spouse may hide your keys. You're trying to find your keys to drive off to work and they hide the keys. They refuse to provide agreed upon child care. So, you're supposed to have a nanny come in or you're supposed to take the child to daycare and they refuse to do that. Or they're constantly calling you at work when they know they should not be calling you at work. And they come to your workplace and they might be creating a scene at your workplace to make you feel small, to make you so emotionally distressed that keeping that job becomes difficult. So financial abuse is real. You will not see the mark on the person's skin. You will not see that the person's eyes are not black and blue and such like that. It's not physical, but it is emotionally deep, right? You got to understand that the person who is abusing you financially may discourage you from going to school. Why do you want another degree? Why do you want to learn more, or even receiving training or pursuing a promotion? They don't want these things for you because they want to control the money. They want to control you. And then, after preventing you from working, they may criticize you for not contributing financially. Oh, they stop you from working. They don't want you to go to work, but they say, well, you're not bringing in any money in this house. I am the one paying all the bills, and so I can do what I want. And they go along that line. They prevent you from working, but they criticize you. So let me be clear. Let me be clear here. There is nothing wrong with a couple mutually deciding that one spouse will stay home and care for the children or manage the household. There is nothing wrong with that. Okay, so I want to get that straight, because don't think that Dr. Els is saying both parties have to go out and work. If that is a decision between both of you, an agreed decision, that is fine, right? I know of a spouse, well, I know of a couple, I should say, where they agreed that the male is going to stay home and take care of the children because the female is working. The wife is working and she's working for good money, and they decide that he would stay home, he would take care of the children until they get to a certain age, and then he would go back out to find a job. All right. Here's a question. How should a Christian respond if they believe they are experiencing financial abuse from a spouse? That is a very good question. How should you respond if you believe you're being abused? I'm coming to that in a bit, but let me just say, very importantly is having a conversation. And I know I don't want to, I am not the family life educator or the relationship coach who just say communicate and think that communicating will solve all the problems. But just for a wife wide answer right now until I get to later. That you have to be able to sit down and talk about the situation of how you feel and come up with some solutions. All right, but I'm gonna get to that a little later. So the concern really is when one person takes away the other person's ability to earn without mutual agreement. So remember we're saying that if you have mutual agreement, that is fine. If that's the decision, that is fine. But when one person is seeking to take away the other person's ability to work and to earn without mutual agreement, that is control. That is financial abuse, because what they're doing is that they're creating dependency and control on you. All right, that's exactly what they're seeking to do. So dependence that is freely chosen within a relationship, a loving partnership, is different than dependence that is deliberately forced upon you. All right, making the person who depend on you. So let's run to sign number 4. Sign number 4. Money is withheld as a form of punishment. Money is withheld as a form of punishment. And before I go into that, I just want to remind you that I wrote these books. One is the Drip Free Marriage. I'm showing you here. I have the Drip Free Devotional to the book. We talk about the Drip Free Marriage book, all right? And I've added the devotional, okay? And I have added the journal. And I think it is great for you to have because we excuse me, because you could journal when we're dealing with these things. You can journal. These are some of the things that we talk about in the book, and you can journal. It's a 90-day journal and it's a 31-day devotional. It's gonna help you. All right, so I would encourage you to go on Amazon or go on drels.com, and you can find these materials along with others. But let's get back to number 4. All right, number 4 sign of abuse: when money is withheld as a form of punishment. See, financial abuse is often involves punishment. So your spouse may cut off your access to money because you disagree with them. Now, these are some practical things that I want you to see and understand, because this is abuse. When one person controls the money, what they do is, if you disagree with them, right? They stop giving you the money. They stop giving you money to buy groceries. They stop giving you an allowance. They stop giving you money. All right. And so just because you disagree with them, they cut off the money. Therefore, control is, I have the money, I have the control, and you have to agree with everything I say. So if I say we're going to buy this, you can say, no, we're not going to buy this. All right? Or they may refuse to pay for food, for transportation, for clothing, for medication, or other necessities to teach you a lesson. Or you want to disagree with me, I'm going to teach you a lesson. I'm not going to buy any food in this house. If you want to get from point A to point B, you're going to find out ways to get there. I am not giving you transportation. I'm taking away the keys. You can't put any gas in the car. You're going to have to wear the same old clothing that you've had. And those are some of the things, guys. You got to understand what I'm telling you here is very important. As it said, it's of stupendous importance that you understand this that these things are abuse. And maybe, let me just say, maybe it is not in your relationship, but you need to know these signs so that you can help someone. Maybe you're called to help someone in a relationship. You got to understand these signs, right? The person who is abusing you may cancel your credit card or your bank card, may empty a joint account, or even refuse to provide money for the children because they're angry with you. When you see these things, these are signs of financial abuse. They're seeking to punish you because you don't agree with them, right? And they have control of the money. Money is withheld as a form of punishment. That, my friend, is financial abuse. And hear me. They may say things like, as long as I am paying the bills, you will do what I say. You ever heard that? Or you do not deserve anything because you did not listen to me. Or they may say, this is my money, so I make all the decision. Remember, they stop you, they stop you from working, right? So they say, this is my money, so I am making all the decision. When access to basic resources depends on whether you please your spouse, that is not healthy marital relationship. You can withhold from your spouse just because you know they don't agree with you, so you're withholding money. All right, basic resources, they're withholding from you just because you are not agreeing with them. So, guys, you got to understand these things because you can help someone. Love does not use food or shelter, transportation, or medical care as a bargaining tools. These are basic things in a relationship, and disagreement should be addressed through communication. Disagreement should be addressed through boundaries, and when necessary, if you need professional assistance, you can call Dr. Els or someone else. You may need that, right? You may need some sort of counseling or some sort of advice. You got to understand that disagreeing does not mean you withhold from your spouse. Let me pause and just say hi to Maxine Douglin. Great having you locked on to Conversations with Dr. Els. We are talking about 7 signs of financial abuse in marriage, and in a wider sense in a relationship. All right, and we are saying that the 4th sign is when money is being withheld as a form of punishment. Do you know anyone in a relationship where one spouse is withholding money from the other as a form of punishment because the one party didn't do what the other says, or one party is working for all the money, and because the other party disagree, they withhold the money? That is financial abuse, and you have to notice that, okay? Your spouse prevent you from working, things like that. Disagreement should not be settled by financial punishing the person with less power. Not because you're working for more money means that because we disagree, I am punishing you because I'm working for more money. No. All right, let's jump into number 5. I'm giving you these 7 signs. There may be more. Let me just say the list is not exhaustive. There are more, but I want to just deal with these 7 signs. So even if you're not married, when you get into a relationship, these are some of the things that you need to look at. And if you notice them, that is financial abuse. Remember, I said earlier that there is emotional abuse, there is physical abuse, and mental abuse, and sometimes we see these things and they're easier to notice, especially physical abuse, because you see the person eye black and blue, or you see the visible sign. Financial abuse is not always easily noticed, and that's why I want to help someone today. I want us to discuss this today, that we look at these signs. All right, so, number 5, your spouse creates debt or damages your credit without your consent. So, what you have here is when a spouse, and especially if you are in North America where credit is so vitally important to whether you can buy whether you can buy a house, or whether you can get a car note, a car loan, or mortgage, or anything like that. Credit is very important in North America. It may not be so much in the Caribbean. And so what I'm saying is that if someone uses your name, your account, if one spouse would use your name or your account or your credit card or your debit card, they're creating debt in your name without your consent. So they go to courts and they take out a full chair set and a full kitchen set on hire purchase and TV, and everything is in your name and you don't know. Hear me. Excuse me. But hear me. That is financial abuse. You see, financial abuse can continue affecting someone long after the relationship has ended. Because if that happened and now you have to pay back, your name is there, and you have to deal with that. You got to understand, even after the relationship is severed, your name is still alongside those debts, right? And it will affect you in the long term. A spouse may even open accounts in your name without telling you, right? In some places that has happened. They may use your credit card, as I said before, and refuse to pay the balance. They may pressure you to sign loans you do not understand what it is about, right? They may hide bills, or they may miss payments deliberately, or use the joint account funds for gambling or secret purchases, for other activities. They may be doing these things without you knowing. That is financial abuse. All right. So understand this. When your spouse do these things, number 5, we're saying when your spouse create debt or damages your credit without consent, that is financial abuse, and you have to pay attention. You have to pay attention to that. All right. And because you know what, sometimes this person discover the damage only when they apply for a home or a vehicle, or something like that, or a line of credit. Then they realize, wait, this thing, I don't know about this. And they go home to their spouse to find out that it was done, or the person at the bank, or the place where you want to get your credit, your chair set or whatever, tell you, well, this person did this. You have to be careful, right? Because by that time, thousands of dollars of debt may be created and you did not know about it. See, marriage does involve shared responsibilities, but marriage does not remove the need for honesty and informed consent. You got to understand, right? You should not be forced to sign documents that you don't know anything about, that you have not been permitted to read. You should not be forced to sign that. You should not be threatened for asking questions about a loan, or a major debt, that a major financial obligation with your name on it. You should not be afraid to ask that, right? You got to understand, financial secrecy that put another person's future at risk is a serious violation of trust. And if one spouse is doing that, if one partner in the relationship is doing that, these are things that you need to be aware of. That is financial abuse. Let me our time is fast going, and so let me head on to sign number 6. You are prevented from leaving because you have no financial resources. This is oftentimes the challenge that we have, you have, right? Now, you want to leave the relationship, and mind you, Dr. Els is not saying that the first thing you do is leave the relationship. But I'm saying it becomes hard for you to leave the relationship. You're not prevented from leaving because you have no financial resources. Or you cannot go and rent an apartment because you don't have any money. Right? You can't go and buy a house because you don't have any money. What am I going to live with? How am I going to get from point A to point B? And the other party knows that, right? And so that is what they do so that you can't leave. That is financial abuse. Got to understand, one of the most dangerous aspects of financial abuse is that it can trap you into unhealthy or unsafe relationship. I want to say that again. I want to emphasize that. One of the most dangerous aspects of financial abuse is that it can trap you into an unhealthy or unsafe relationship. And may I add, what I find could happen is that financial abuse could lead to physical abuse. Because if you want to leave and you can't leave, right? And the spouse see that you're trying to leave, sometimes they become aggressive, and it can get physical. You may want to leave temporarily, just so you could seek help, or just so you could create distance. But you don't have any money. You don't have access to money. You may not have your own bank account, and so you cannot leave. All right, or you may not know where the important documents are because that spouse have all the documents. You may not have transportation. Your spouse may have damaged your credit so much, or prevent you from working, that you can't do anything. And so they may threaten to leave you with nothing. They may threaten to take the children. They may threaten to cancel your insurance, or to make you homeless. These are some of the things that you would see in a relationship where there's financial abuse. This is often why people ask, why doesn't the person just leave? How many times we ask that question? Why don't they just leave? Understand, leaving may not be as simple as we put it, right? For us looking on the outside, it may not be as simple. When someone has been isolated from money, from employment, from transportation, from family support, from financial information, leaving can feel to them impossible. And so it's not easy for them to leave. That is why people experiencing financial abuse need more than judgment. Don't judge them. They need help. They need support. They need careful planning and access to appropriate professional resources. That is why Conversations with Dr. Els is here. That is why Drip Free Marriage is here. That is why Mind Renew is here, so that you can have help in these situations. Because persons in this situation need support. They need professional resources. And where there is threat of violence, remember I talked about that? The person should not be encouraged to confront the abusive spouse alone. You gotta be careful. If the person is threatening with violence, be careful. And that, my friend, brings me to number 7. Sign number 7 is when money is used to humiliate, threaten, or make you feel worthless. Number seven, seventh sign of abuse is when money is used to humiliate, threaten, or make you feel worthless. See, financial abuse is not only about the money itself, understand that. It is also about the messages attached to the money. A spouse may constantly remind you that you're earning less. Remember, I am making more money in this house. I pay the bills in this house. You're not doing as much. And they constantly remind you of that, right? They may tell you that you can't, they may tell you that you can do this or you can do that, right? They may tell you, they may tell you that, you know, they may tell you that you would be nothing without them. You leaving me, you'll be nothing without me. Or they may embarrass you in front of the children, in front of relatives or friends, because you are not the primary earner. And so you gotta be careful. They may call you lazy or you're useless or a burden. You're a burden to me. Even when you contribute to the home. Gotta understand that. Even when you contribute to the home in ways that are not reflected in a paycheck, they may say you're lazy and you're useless. Man, I tell you, God bless you women who take care of homes. And sometimes we as men, we don't pay enough attention to that, right? But God bless these women. You understand what they have to do, right? But then the man, just because he's bringing in more money, would tell her that she's lazy. And vice versa, because I want you to understand that financial abuse is not a one-way thing. It have male abuse female and female abuse male financially and otherwise, right? But one spouse may insist that earning more money give them more authority or more freedom and more value in the marriage relationship. Remember, we talk about the fact that both parties are equal, right? Income does not determine human worth. Let me say that again. Income does not determine human worth. The spouse who earns more is not more important. And if you out there and you listen to me and you think that because you're earning more, you are more important than your partner, you get it wrong. You are wrong. The spouse who stays home with the children is not less valuable. All right? The spouse experiencing unemployment or illness or even a temporary financial setback should not be treated as though they have lost their dignity. You got to understand that. Don't make money, don't use money to belittle your spouse. Financial contribution matters, yes, but a person's value cannot be measured only by a salary. So we're saying that you know, the person who uses money to humiliate another person is abusing them financially. So when money is repeatedly used to belittle or frighten or silence a spouse, the issue is no longer merely financial. It is emotional and relational abuse as well. So let me answer the question that was asked in the chat. What should you do? First, do not ignore the pattern. If you see that happening, don't ignore it. A single disagreement may not indicate abuse, but repeated control and secrecy and punishment and intimidation and restriction should be taken seriously. Second thing is begin gathering accurate information where it is safe to do so. Understand your household income, the expenses, the accounts, the debts, the insurance, the policies. And what other financial document, get them, understand them, read them. You have to understand that. Don't get yourself in danger, but you have to try to find that. And thirdly, speak with someone trustworthy. Again, it's very important that you speak to someone, maybe a qualified counselor, a domestic violence advocate, a financial professional, a pastor, a family life educator, a trained support person. Talk to somebody. But be careful about seeking help only from people who will automatically tell you to remain silent or to submit or to endure, right? Some language, some spiritual language should never be used to protect abusive relationship. Okay. The fourth thing, develop a safety plan if you feel threatened or trapped. All right. Develop a safety plan if you feel threatened or trapped. Do not announce your plan because that might increase risk. Do not and increase risk not only to you but also to your children. And finally, what you should do is understand that accountability and reconciliation are not the same thing. Right? They're not the same thing. A person can apologize and still refuse to change. All right? Real change requires honesty and transparency and responsibility and the appropriate boundaries over time. So hear me as we close conversations with Dr. Els this evening. Money should be a tool that helps a married couple build their life together. Money should be a tool that helps you build in a relationship. It should never become a weapon where one spouse uses to control another. Healthy marriage does not mean that both spouses will always earn the same amount or perform the same financial responsibilities. It means both people are treated with dignity, and that is important because both people have a voice and both people understand the important financial decisions affecting the household. None of the parties should live in fear because the other control the money. So here's what I want you to do as we close. Take a moment and ask yourself, are we managing our money together? Or is money being used to manage one of us? Here's a question. Are you managing your money together? Or is money being used to manage one of you? That may be kind of uncomfortable question, but it is a very important one. And what I want you to do is to share this video with someone who may need this conversation. Or go back and listen to it. And I want to encourage you, if you did not hear all of this, you can go to my YouTube channel, Dr. Els TV, and you can view this there. But share this conversation with someone. You may know someone who is having challenges in their relationship because they're working for less than their spouse, and their spouse is controlling them because they're working for more. All right. Share this video with them, share this conversation with them, and look out for my post this week, right? Every day this week you will see a post from Dr. Els. If you have not followed my Dr. Els page yet, the official page where we are having our live, follow it, like it, subscribe, share it. On Mondays, I give you some tips on marriage. Mondays are Marriage Monday. Tuesdays are Mind Renew Tuesdays. I give you some tips on mental health and staying, renewing your mind. And so every day I give you tips on different things. So I want you to check out Dr. Els page. Also go to subscribe to Dr. Els YouTube channel, Dr. Els TV, and you will find more of these. But until then, this has been Conversations with Dr. Els. And remember, whatever you do, all right, whatever you do this week, add value to someone's life, right? This has been Dr. Els, Conversations with Dr. Els. Great having you locked on. I'm out.